A teacher mocked a poor girl by asking her to play violin, not knowing she was a musical prodigy. But before we unravel this beautiful story, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up, alright? Raising hands. At Crestwood High School, Mr. Alden, yep, the music teacher with that trademark smug grin glued to his face, stood at the front of the class like he was the star of a Broadway show. And trust me, he played the role every day like his life depended on it. You know, the kind, perfectly gelled hair, voice dripping with fake charm, the kind of guy who treated his classroom like a personal stage and his students just background actors in his one-man show. So, when he took a slow, calculated stroll across the shiny floors of the music room, his tone changed. "Today, class," he said, pausing for dramatic effect, "we're trying something a little different." A hush fell over the room. You could feel the shift. Shoulders tensed. Heads turned. Because every kid in that class knew exactly what a little different meant in Mr. Alden's world. It meant someone was about to be humiliated. Someone was about to be his latest example. And then his gaze locked in. Straight to the back row. There she was. Ivy Morales. 16. Quiet. Wore the same worn-out hoodie, like a suit of armor. Always alone. Always fading into the background like wallpaper. She'd only been in town for 6 months, staying in the low-income housing right behind the football field. Not many kids talked to her, and those who did barely remembered her voice. Ivy was invisible. But today she wasn't. "3 Ivy," Mr. Alden called out, dragging her name like it tasted sour in his mouth. "Tell me, you ever laid hands on a violin before?" She glanced up slowly, her face unreadable, calm, yet completely unreadable. "Yes," she said, simple and clear. The class chuckled. You know, those under-the-breath kind of laughs that sting the most. "Oh, really?" Mr. Alden lifted his brows, feigning surprise like he was auditioning for a soap opera. "Well then, aren't we all just so lucky today?" His tone was drenched in syrupy sarcasm. "Come on up. Let's see what you've got." He didn't mean it. He didn't want music, he wanted a joke. He was setting her up. But Ivy stood up without hesitation. She walked down to the front, took the violin he handed her, her fingers sure, not trembling, and without a word to him or the now whispering class, she lifted the violin, placed it under her chin, and closed her eyes. Then, silence. 1 second. 2 seconds. A laugh slipped out from somewhere in the back. Mr. Alden sighed loudly, ready to deliver some smug comment to end this farce. But then Ivy moved the bow. And in that moment, time stopped. The first note? It slipped into the air like a secret too soft to say out loud. Gentle. Fragile. Almost like it didn't want to be heard. But then it grew. It grew into something rich, powerful, and achingly beautiful. The room was stunned. She wasn't just playing a song. She was telling something. Something ancient. Something sacred. It wasn't flashy or dramatic. It wasn't something you'd hear at a school recital. It was slow, tender, haunting, even. The kind of music that makes your soul ache in a way you didn't know it could. It was like she had reached inside herself and poured every ounce of feeling into the sound. No more giggles. No more side eyes. Just silence. Raw, wide-eyed silence. Even Mr. Alden's signature smirk slipped away. He looked confused, like he had just seen a ghost and didn't know how to feel about it. Ivy, though? She didn't even look up. She moved with the violin like they were one thing, like it had always been a part of her. And in that 3-minute window, every single student, every judgment, every assumption, every insult vanished. When the last note drifted away into stillness, Ivy lowered the violin, handed it back to him without so much as a glance, and returned to her seat like it had meant nothing. But oh, it had meant everything. Mr. Alden just stood there blinking, his mouth half open, speechless for the first time all year. "Thank you," he muttered, barely audible. The bell rang, but nobody moved right away. When they finally filed out, some looked at Ivy, unsure what to say. Most didn't say anything at all. Mr. Alden just stood there, clutching the violin, staring at the door she had just walked through like she'd taken a piece of the world with her. That afternoon, Ivy sat under the bleachers behind the school, hoodie tight around her face, as the wind picked up. But she wasn't thinking about the stunned silence, or Mr. Alden's shock, or even the whispers that had turned to awe. She was thinking about her mom. Her mother had always said music wasn't just notes or strings. It was home, a place where feelings too big for words could finally rest. She used to play for Ivy. Little concerts after late-night shifts. Laughs and lullabies in their tiny apartment. But that was before. Before the cancer. Before the bills. Before the violin had to be sold, the last gift her mother ever gave her. Ivy taught herself again. With old-school violins. Slipping into the music room before sunrise. Practicing alone. No praise. No crowd. Just memory, love, and loss stitched into every note. So when Mr. Alden had called her out, she hadn't played to impress. She had played because it was the one part of her she hadn't lost. Back inside, Mr. Alden sat alone in his office, still thinking about her, holding her name like a fragile question he was too ashamed to answer. He replayed her performance in his mind, over and over, each note unraveling everything he thought he knew. How had he missed her? He was the one who prided himself on spotting raw talent, on shaping futures, on guiding brilliance. But Ivy? She'd been invisible to him. Just another quiet kid in a cheap hoodie. And he had turned her into a joke. The shame hit like a punch to the chest. He opened his laptop, started digging through files. Transfer records. Emergency contacts. Then he found it. A note. Ivy Morales is musically gifted, one of the most naturally intuitive violinists I've ever had the pleasure of teaching. Please take care of this talent. His heart dropped. The next morning, when Ivy stepped into the music room for her usual early practice, Mr. Alden was already there. Not standing tall. Not smug. But sitting. Quiet. Different. In front of him, on a velvet cloth, lay a violin case. A beautiful wooden one. Worn, but polished with care. "Ivy," he said softly, "do you have a moment?" She nodded, guarded. "I owe you an apology," he began. "Yesterday, I tried to be clever. I tried to teach a lesson. But I was cruel. And I wasn't fair to you. I wasn't the teacher I'm supposed to be." He motioned to the case. "This violin, it belonged to my mother. She passed a few years ago. It's been in my attic collecting dust, but it's a beautiful instrument. And I'd like you to have it. If you want it." Ivy's breath caught. She stepped closer, hands trembling just a bit as they hovered over the case like she was afraid it would disappear. "Why?" she whispered. Mr. Alden smiled. No act, no arrogance. Just a real, quiet smile. "Because you reminded me of what music really means. And because you deserved so much better than being laughed at by someone who should have known better." Her eyes shimmered. She didn't cry, but she came close. She opened the case slowly, delicately, and held the violin like it was sacred. It was. That spring, Ivy took the stage at the school's annual concert. No one whispered. No one mocked. They listened. Every single person in that auditorium leaned in, hearts open. And when she played the final note, they rose to their feet. Not just for the music, but for the girl who reminded them what it means to truly listen. Because sometimes, the most powerful sound in the room comes from the one person no one saw coming. If this story moved you even just a little, take a second. Reflect. Think about how quick we are to judge others based on what we think we know. Ivy's story is proof that brilliance often hides in plain sight, behind quiet eyes, behind worn hoodies, behind silence. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And, as always, thanks for watching.